Hello, Internet. I'm Angela, and this is not Discover RPG. This is the Nerdsmith Power Hour. Hope you're all doing well. Sorry I'm a little late today. Had some stuff I had to get done. There. I had to fix a couple of things today, and got me running a little late. But I am here, and we are gonna go a full hour, so hang in there for 1:30 to be our end time. 4:30 if you're on the East Coast like I am. I hope you're all doing well. So I am going to be trying something a little bit new today. I'm hoping this to be a continuing series that comes about because I have an idea and I want to. So the idea I had was to start learning some new systems. And there's been some going around TTRPG community, specifically the community, about whether or not some people want to stay with the game. And as much as I'm not sure where I fall down on that, since I am committed to several small creators that get their income from Dungeons and Dragons. But I do want to broaden my horizons a little bit, and unfortunately, I am very bad at studying systems on my own. So one of the things that I want to start developing is perhaps a bit of a study group. A book club, as it were, where we go through different systems and learn them together, and show other people how to play them, so that people don't feel like they're kind of adrift at sea trying to find new systems. Now, some of those books are going to be bigger than others, so I'm going to try to keep things down to very manageable level. Specifically, today, because I'm waiting to hear back from a few content creators, I have decided to do a bunch of free, available one-page one-shots. Now, some of these may not be free. If you know that, please let me know. I will make sure I pay someone for this. This is a compilation PDF a friend gave me of one pages, and I know a lot of these come from Reddit or different places where you can get free RPGs, but we're gonna go through a couple of one-pagers because I think it is worth, as I said, expanding our horizons. So yeah, I'm gonna be going down a list for the next hour, trying to do a combination of reviewing systems, but then some of these I'm seeing for the very first time or reading through them for the very first time, and then maybe and feel free to chime in chat as I go through the rules. I would also be coming up with potential one-shot plots. I like, when I think about how a system works, I often think about how I want to use it. So that might also be a part of this little. So yeah, if you have any questions or any suggestions, please chime in chat, and we can get started. Let me see. Pop. Don't look funky for a second. Patient. Here we go. I'm back to normal. Sorry about it. So, okay, so I'm gonna be looking at. That's good day. Alright, so, we're gonna look at a couple of one-pagers. So, first one, which I will admit I am very excited about because it is a delightful name, but is by Grant Howitt, who you would know from Honey Heist if you're aware of any other one-page one-shots, among others. So Grant Howitt puts out these one-page one-shots a lot, and they all have a slightly different flavor to them, which I very much appreciate. That's what we're going to be looking at. Alright, so let's start. Alright, so Adventure Skeletons, an RPG by Grant Howitt and Chris Taylor. Specifically, an RPG by Grant Skellington Howitt and Chris Covered with a Sheet Taylor. Um, you are a skeleton, bored of being told to guard some boring old dungeon by a wizard. So, you dress up in some kit you found on a corpse and set off to the human dungeon, or village, as they like to call it, for an adventure. Your adventure, your adventuring goals are to slay villains, get cool treasure, and perform legendary deeds. Alright, so, premise is your party is a bunch of skeletons, and you are basically going on a reverse quest through a village. So, high camp and absurdity, probably quite a bit of violence. Um, so yeah. Your character builds are the following. You have an ancestry, so what sort of creature did your skeleton come from? If you are an orc, you get a +1 to hitting and shouting. If you are an elf, you get a +1 to speaking and moving. If you're a dwarf, your head and chest get an extra hitbox each. If you're a goblin, you get a +1 to sneaking and running away. If you're a human, you can detach a body part to re-roll a skill check. And if you are a skeleton ancestry, you get +1 to skeleton knowledge. You have been a skeleton for so long. Basically, take them as your ancestry. And I know we've had lots of conversations on the show before about racial abilities like fantasy races and ancestry. I get it. In this particular case, this is incredibly tongue-in-cheek. I wouldn't be as hung up about that in a long-term campaign. I would be a little more careful about how I characterized that. You could also just rename these ancestries to be like the type of creature you came from in a more physiological way. You could just say you came from a big bulky person. You came from a stealthy, gracile person. That sort of thing. You could just describe the robustness of the skeleton. That would, I think, be just as fine. And then, so you have an equipment table here that you roll twice on. It looks like you're using D10s by the looks of it. Yes, you're rolling D10s. So, your equipment table, you have an option to get leather or metal armor. Those give you different numbers of hit boxes. A scimitar, which does a d6 damage. A dagger, which does d4, or a d8 if you're hiding when you attack with it. The great axe is two-handed. It does d8 damage, or a d12 if you're going after the head, so if you're trying to take someone's head off. And bows and arrows, where you get a d6. These are going to be very familiar tropes for familiar with D&D. There are some. I'm gonna start back up the damage. So, you can't see it on your screen, but here is the skeleton in question. So when they say hitboxes, it looks like they mean specifically there are boxes that get filled up as you get struck and dealt damage. Not have a ton. It looks like this game is possibly determined to be you're gonna fall apart a lot. When someone attacks you, they hit because you're slow. Roll a d10 on the hit location table to see where they hit you. This body part is damaged. You mark off a hit point. And it comes off, as do any parts that are directly attached to it. Use some common sense. If someone hits you in a body part that is not currently attached, they miss. If a body part has no hitboxes remaining, it is broken and can no longer be used. If your head runs out of hitboxes, you're out of the game, so keep it safe. So, alright, so those are the rules for your health and ability to sustainably random table to see where you get hit, and body parts come off, but they seem to still be functional unless they run out of hitboxes. So if you hit something and it only has one hitbox taken up, If it has more than one hitbox, it's fine. Like, as long as you haven't run out of hitboxes, the body part can still move. I would probably adjudicate that they're separate but mobile. Maybe you could pick up your arm and wield it, or the arm can still do stuff, but it's detached from your body. You could also, just for sillies, you could have it like crawling across the floor like a cousin, or like a thing sort of situation, like in the Addams Family. I would definitely consider that valid. All right, oh, sorry, totally missed it. Reattaching parts is a section here. If a body part comes off, you can stick it back on. If it breaks, you lose it. So if it breaks or you lose it, you can replace it with any bone you've found on your travels. You can have one non-bone replacement at a time that must be of an appropriate size and shape. A barrel for a chest, a tree branch for a leg, etc. Fun fact, every human and most animals are full of bones, going almost entirely unused. How convenient. So, you can replace your body parts with bones if they break. So, if you get all your hitboxes filled on a body part, it becomes broken. And when you break a body part and you can't use it anymore, you can replace it with a bone you have found on your travels, or a non-bone replacement, but you can only have one non-bone replacement at a time on you, and it has to make some sort of... It has to be justified how it would fit on your person. Like, kind of be a decent metaphorical swap for what you're doing. Cool. D10's the primary. There are, like we had seen before, there are some different performing actions. So there are some different dice depending on the type of weapon you're using. So performing actions, you roll a d10 and equal or beat the Game Master's target number. A 4 is easy, a 6 is standard, an 8 is challenging, and a 10 is really difficult. Okay, so you have your own difficulty chart here, and everyone's aware of what that means. Your roll is at -1 for each body part you are currently missing. So if you have a broken body part that you haven't replaced with a different bone or a different non-bone object, you get a -1 to your roll. You roll a 10, roll another d10, and add it to the result. So a one-time exploding dice for rolling 10s when you are performing an action. Damaging humans and other things is the next section. If you hit, roll on the location table to see where you hit. So same with the skeletons. And roll your damage dice versus their toughness. Without a weapon, you do d3 damage, so you'll need a dice roller or d6 divided by 2. If you want to do it that way, that's fine too. If you beat their toughness, you take them out of action. If not, lower their toughness by 1. A toughness ranges from 2, which is like a sheep or a weasel, to a 12, which is a dragon. So it's a interpretive gradient of toughness ranges. So your oh, so that's a oh, because you've got some bonuses to attacking if it's a 12, so you're like, a skeleton's just not going to be able to hit a dragon unless they're really souped up. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, you're mostly going to be dealing with humans in this game, from what I can tell. Or mortals. Honestly, I just call them, like, bipeds or skin bags or something gross. I wouldn't necessarily limit to just, you're going to the humans. You're going to the living folk. So, you have your adventure section over. The human dungeon. You've got a couple of things here. You've got the dungeon's dark secret. You have the cool treasure. You have the human dungeon, what it is, what it's made of, or what kind of place it is. So those are random tables. Again, you could make up your own stuff, but there's a lot of really neat kind of things that you can play with here. You are apparently not supposed to tell the players at the start of the game Do not tell them what the dark secret of the human dungeon is. That is what they're going to cover. So here, let's go in this order. I think this makes more sense. We'll talk about the kinds of human dungeon you can experience in the game, or it is suggested. A vibrant farming hamlet, a busy crossroads with an inn and a river. Hi, Feng Fu. Welcome. We're going over adventure skeleton. We'll be learning some one-page one today. I started a little late, so we're gonna run for 5 minutes, I think. Alright, so the human, quote-unquote, dungeon can be a vibrant farming hamlet, a busy crossroads with an inn and a river, a monastery and library, a mage's college, a shady river port, or a seaside resort. There are, of course, a million other settings that you could but the idea being that you are a bunch of skeletons adventuring off into a human dungeon. You're going to a village, town, or some settlement. You have cool treasure that people can find. Looks like a bag of gold and gems, which you can exchange for goods and services. A magic scimitar, which gives you a bonus to hit and damage. Magic armor, which lets you heal at the start of every fight. Invisibility cloak. Until you make a noise or an attack, you can hide in plain sight. A potion of repair, which gets... Oh, that's very nice. Allows you to clear all your marked hitboxes. One use only. So that's a complete healing potion for a skeleton. And a hat of subterfuge. +2 attempts to disguise yourself. So, a skeleton in a trench coat? No, you're just a dude in a trench coat. And finally, the human dungeon's dark secret, which you determine, but you do not tell your players at the beginning of the game. They will discover this as they play. The dungeon is harboring a murder cult, praying to a malevolent demon under the town, worshipping a skeleton who you know as a god. That's a great one. Imprisoning a bunch of innocent skeletons in a basement. How could they? None of them have skeletons. They're all outsider pod people in disguise, which is a great one because if one of the mechanics of this game is that you look for people, and when you attack the monsters in the human dungeon, you can collect their bones to hold on to. The idea that, oh god, they're made of goo, or they're not skeletons at all. What's wrong with them? Or a town built atop an extensive dungeon complex. So, y'all live in the basement, I guess? You live in the... you're going up to the building upstairs, to the dungeons above. That's also very fun. So, that's awesome. I'm a big fan of Adventure Skeletons. I would love to run this at some point. Looks really easy to pick up. Very much, if you're playing D&D or some fantasy game, looks like it's very easy to catch on. Just honestly copy and paste most of the flavor from something you would normally play in a fantasy setting, or go super awesome. I will try to organize something in the Discord server. So if you want to join us in the Discord server, and I'll hit it up in looking for group. I'll try to put together something. Let's see, are we running? Nope, that's okay. You can find the link underneath if you've been there yet. So that's our game number 1, Adventures, which, of course, by Grant Howitt of Honey Heist fame, and Chris Taylor. So please, please, please take a look at Grant's stuff. I believe Grant might have a Patreon now for some of his work. Oh, I had the Discord server up. Goodness. Alright, so let's go to the next one. Let's check out what else we've got here. Ooh, I like this. Beautiful space pirates. Beautiful space pirates in the galaxy's most dangerous. Part 1 of a 6-part series. A space RPG by Grant Howitt. So, again, you can go to patreon.com/Grant, /G Howitt, looks like. G Hard to see. No worries, Funko. It's G.S. Howitt. You find him. Alright, so about beautiful space pirates. Different genre. You are a beautiful space pirate Terrible and wonderful news. You are attending the funeral of the great space pirate Balthazar Germain, and he's written you into his will. You and your friends who are also in his will rub shoulders with the galaxy's most devil-may-care scoundrels, who all also happen to be mentioned in the will, and prepare for his spectacular send-off. Your fabulous name is... Your beautiful space pirate name. You assign so you have a D6, a D8, and a D10, which represent your stats. Your average is the D6, your good stat is your D8, and your great stat is your D10. You assign them to the following: daring, handsome, and vicious. Those are your 3 stats. Daring includes running, jumping, steering, climbing, space rigging, things that would be justified as daring. Handsome is to charm, impress, or lie to people. And vicious is to inflict pain, threaten people, or break objects. I like this idea. It's a little beyond the norm. It's a different direction than normal stats. It is flavor. It is how you approach the world, which are stats I really, really like. I think it's easier to express those, or rather easier to adjudicate those and not feel like you're sticking to some sort of very hard and fast rules. I like the playfulness of that. And then there seems to be another score called Peril underneath that, and I think later in the document. Alright, so pick. Once per scene, you can do one of the following. You take advantage, roll another d6, and use the highest dice. Alright, so I guess we'll learn about advantage as well. I'm going to do this in a different order. Advancement rules. So there are rules here for playing multiple sessions, which I really like. It's a one-page RPG with campaign potential, and I'll be honest, I kind of love that idea. Just your beautiful space pirates, and every episode you are joining a different funeral for another space pirate. Y'all, your lifespan, your shelf life isn't very high. So you're just constantly going to funerals. I kind of love it. Alright. So let's talk about the system really quick, and then I'll go back up. So, system. When you attempt a risky action, and the outcome is in doubt, roll the appropriate dice and compare it to the task number, the TN, determined by the GM, so the challenge or the rating. If you equal or beat that task number, the task is complete. If you roll under the task number, you lower the task number by 1, and you add 1 to your peril score. So when you fail attempts at actions, peril in the game increases. That makes sense. And again, it goes example difficulty levels. A trifling or momentary concern is a task number 4, so a challenge of 4. A challenging or extended task has a difficulty of 8. And a grand endeavor indeed has a difficulty of 12. So, and these are more character design. I just kind of wanted to get a sense of how the game gets run. All right, so here's more information about your character building. So you pick one of each of these groupings. These are abilities you can pick, and it says, like I said, the advancement is once per funeral. For every funeral you survive, you pick a new ability. Character gains more abilities. So here are some of your options. You have your once per scene abilities. Determine exactly what an NPC wants right now. Work out what an NPC is most afraid of. Find a chandelier in a beneficial location. Find a laser flintlock or declare that one malfunctions. Find a rope, rigging, or crane apparatus, which is daring action. Find a window or airlock in a useful location. Tell us a useful fact about this alien's culture. So once per scene, you could do one of those. You could pick one of those things that you then have the ability to do once per scene. And then there's the second set here is once per session. Do one of the following. Declare an NPC is madly in love with you. Recruit, which that's a fair point. So as far as consent is concerned, that's a slightly different thing. in my opinion, than having your character, like, roll to seduce. That feels more like a DM fiat that gets inserted. I might play around with that a little bit. I'm not sure I would keep that one. Recruit a space ghost with neo-spiritualism rituals. Trigger a Mexican standoff in your favor, so everybody aiming their guns at each other. Find a party happening nearby. You're invited. Find a friendly NPC in a useful position. Find an unattended vessel just when you need one. Or channel your sorceress ancestry into stars. Which I assume is kind of open to interpretation. That might be. To tell us how amazing your coat, your vibro saber, your laser flintlock, and your hair are. Are you an alien? That's cool. So it's very open to interpretation. It doesn't matter what you look like. Your skills are what matter, which I appreciate. So, touchstones. When you make a character, roll 2d12 on this table. These are your touchstones, people and things that you care for deeply. If you roll the same thing as another player, you share that touchstone. Okay. And here are the touchstones, which I would imagine you could make up new ones, especially if you were going to be running this as more of a campaign or a multi-episode adventure. So, Abernathy Towers, your stern but loving mentor, mostly robotic. Horatio Kingson, a beautiful space prince with literal emerald eyes. Amaranth 9, an embodied ship's computer in the form, in the form of a shifting hologram, as opposed to a disembodied. Okay, Terpsichore's Vaunt, a star skimmer that's been in your family for generations, so a ship. An orbital pleasure satellite stolen from the bad-tempered king of Jupiter. Alright, so there's a lot of camp, a lot of, yeah, I really enjoy the kitschiness of this. It's very, Flash Gordon sort of mixed with Treasure Planet, which I appreciate. Let's see, what else do we have here? A hat so beautiful that it was for a time the de facto ruler of the moon. Okay. Clarabelle 003, a time-traveling cop and your on-again, off-again paramour. Ooh, I like her. Them. There's no genders specifically specified here. You want it, of course. Kinesthelesian, a crystal horse that you've ridden since you were a child. He can talk. Reminds me very much of Swiftwind from She-Ra. Specifically the new one, the Netflix one. We also have Audacious Fandango, a galactic mountebank and interstellar highway person. Giselle Fleur-de-Lis, a rampant space wizard. Castor Wolfhal, pan-galactic daguerreotypist and canny muckraker. A daguerreotype is actually a thing. Double check and make sure I remember what exactly it is. A daguerreotype is it's a photographer. It's those very specific old-timey photographs where they'd be under the curtain and hit the camera. Okay, so I like that they're like a reporter. And Sinestra Deathwine, a reformed supervillain and excellent kisser. Okay, I'm such a big fan of this idea. Alright, so this is also very good. So, as we were saying, your stats are daring, handsome, vicious, and then peril is a score. The higher your peril score, the more potential danger you're in. If you ever roll a dice and it shows equal to or less than your peril score, you're in danger. I'm in danger. You can't act, and your friends will have to rescue you soon, or you'll meet a terrible demise. At any point, you can lose one of your touchstones to get out of danger and reduce your peril to 0. Narrate the tearful farewell scene. If a shared touchstone is lost, all characters who share it reduce their peril to 0 and escape danger, but the touchstone is lost to all of them. So, okay. So So the justification there is that you're basically stunned if your peril goes, if you roll below your peril score. Checking. Okay, so equal or less to your peril. And you'll have to make a decision there whether or not you want to lose a touchstone, because you're in a lot of dire straits right now, or you are gonna wait for your friends to come rescue you. Let's see. Alright, so for the GM, here is your information. Germain's will come with bizarre stipulations. Only one crew can claim the majestic reward. Roll to see what is required to best the other pirate crews and claim his inheritance. Roll twice if you're feeling brave. So here are things you might have to do. Survive a night in a haunted space station. Slay the legendary horned beast of Briar. End the millennia-long civil war of Ecclesiarchy 6. Steal the twice-born queen's phylactery. Oh god. Find a wealthy spouse for Germain's awful stepchild. And assassinate Germain's killer, the pirate warlord Zen. Alright, so this, again, with a lot of these one-shots, one-page one-shot, or one-page RPGs, you have a lot of freedom to design the story that you want. And like I said, the touchstones that I would say, the cultural touchstones that I would use for a game like this are something between like Flash Gordon and honestly She-Ra a little bit, Treasure Planet, so space pirate stuff, a little bit of Star Wars maybe, some smuggler vibes, a bit of a kind of, it's a little less, slightly less silly than it's a little less of a silly game than compared to Adventure Skeleton mechanics. But I do really love this. I think this would be a fun... I really just adore the premise of you're going to a swanky funeral for a galactic space pirate. So you get to... If you wanted to do this more than once, you could create basically your own version of a lot of these pieces. Specifically the stipulations of the will, you could use multiple for one story. You could break them up into a few sessions. So it's like, all right, you guys meet up or your crew go into another space pirate funeral, because you know y'all get the invites. You go to everybody's weddings, you go to everybody's funeral. It's the thing to do. And then you have these people that come in and out of your life, these touchstones. So yeah, I love these. I think these are a great idea. And I'm a big fan. So every single one of these, or at least the first two that I've seen, I'm very excited about. Yeah, gosh, I have too many games to run now. All right, so let's see. This one, don't think this one makes sense. That one requires some physical aid. No, we're not gonna do that one yet. Okay, big motherfucking crab truckers. That's there's a lot. Okay, I'll go through that one another time. Crash Pandas. Crash Pandas is a fun game. Again, a lot of these, like, today's episode is probably going to be mostly Grant Howitt games, just because his titles and premises are all really delightful. So this is another Grant Howitt game from 2018 called Crash Pandas. It's a game about street racing raccoons. If you follow Critical Role, they played this in a one-shot that Sam Riegel ran, but we can go over it now. Alright, so what are you doing in this game? You make a raccoon. Why are you a raccoon entering the world of illegal street racing in Los Angeles? Are you a wide-eyed rookie or a grizzled veteran? Are you in this for love, for fortune, fame, or justice? Are you an undercover cop? Who's your human rival? Do they know you even exist? What's the conflict at the heart of you that spurs drama? You write a short origin story for your raccoon, and you give them a... Alright, so the premise of this entire thing is you are raccoons that go street racing. You want to, if you want to lean on existing properties, you could lean into Fast and the Furious. James Bond probably would be a good one. Ocean's 11 is a good reference. This idea of like heist movies, you know, or racing movies, or honestly any of the like sports films. You could do like a Rocky sort of characters, like They Bring Me Back In, one of the later Rockies, or Rudy. You could do something like that. So yeah, so you write a short origin story. I would imagine you get hyper melodramatic with it, or like edgy and silly, like a 90s or 2000s action movie. So, so what you do for your stats, you have 4 stats. You have alacrity, chutzpah, ferociousness, and rotundity, which I adore. Alacrity means moving quickly, whether it's leaping, climbing, or swimming. Your chutzpah is carrying off schemes, ruses, lies, and disguises. It's your general like sort of charm and like moxie, your like go get itness. Your ferociousness, biting, scratching, and maiming. So anything physical attack wise would be your ferociousness. And rotundity, which is remaining steadfast in adversity thanks to your generous roundness. That just seems like something that you would justify as needed. I'm sorry for the yawning. I promise I'm interested. One of those days, right? Alright, so you have your 4 stats. You roll 44, and you assign them to your stats. So your 4, you can have up to 4 in a stat. So a 1 to a 4 based on your rolls. Then you roll twice on this table, which is a 20-point table. You roll twice on the table to determine your starting equipment. You can never hold more than 2 pieces of equipment, so you need to trade one out if you're going to carry another. So you have 2 hands, only hold 2 things. So your options for... Goodness gracious. So your options are balloon, the kind you can use to float around until it pops. A banana, delicious. Also, cars might slip on the peel. I mean, they might. A bandit mask, kind of redundant for a raccoon. Broom, the ultimate anti-raccoon weapon. It also works against people and cars. A cardboard box, multi-purpose logistics and obfuscation. Metal Gear Solid. A cassette tape, Queen's Greatest Hits, apparently. Which probably requires a sing-along. I'm gonna do that one. Cough syrup, doesn't work on coughs, but is at least narcotic. Oh, dog mask, pass yourself off as a dog driving a car. Never suspect a thing. Duct tape, repair cars or anything else you can tape together. That's a fair one. A fake beard and glasses to conceal your true identity. Fake ID, use this to buy booze despite the fact that you're 2 years old and a raccoon. Okay, but you can use that for pretty much whatever you need a fake ID for. A flame decal, cool. A grappling hook, performing sweet grapple tricks. A lead pipe, you hit stuff with. A lit cigar, how's it staying lit? Anyway, mobile phone, call your friends, take a picture, chew the casing. A police siren, it makes noises and lights. Red paint, gives you a +1 to speed or throw it on other people's windscreens. Wait, red paint makes you go faster? Okay, sure, red cars. Spare tire, repair flats or upgrade your car to have 5 wheels. Parentheses, fast. Or a turbo rocket, 1 use per race, you get a +3 to your speed. This is not so much a 1-page, the 2-page, so that see it a little. I appreciate it. Alright, so next section of Crash Panda. Doing anything that isn't driving a car. You roll a d6 equal to the relevant stat when you attempt a task. If your action ties into your origin story, you add a dice to your roll. If it ties into the conflict in your origin story, another. Each dice that shows 4 or more is a success. Simple tasks need 1 success, or difficult ones may need 2 or 3. If you roll more successes than you need, feel free to narrate cool stuff your raccoon does whilst. Alright, so for the GMs, you have, looks like basically a 3 rank of difficulty that, tell the player whether this is a 1, 2, or 3 success task. They then roll their dice. If they roll a 4 or more, that dice counts as a success. Give them that ability. Misfortune. If a raccoon fails a dangerous action, they're in trouble and must be rescued or helped out by their friends. Raccoons don't take serious damage or die ever. So, this is a very light and fluffy game. You don't run the risk of dying in it because you're playing cute raccoons, which I appreciate. I am going to, for the sake of everybody, here... Crash Pandas. I grant. Oh, it. So if someone comes in, they can see what we're doing. Feels. Hold on. Just so that people... There we go. Now you guys, now if somebody comes in. Alright, so again, if a raccoon fails an action, so you don't get enough successes on your dice, you don't get enough die that are 4 or more, they are in trouble and you must be rescued or helped out by your friends. So you basically create, as a GM, you would create peril for the character, and based on their situation right now, and that should be relatively easy if you're in the middle of a race. Probably not that hard to come up with something dangerous. So here is here's where Crash Pandas gets a little interesting. This is something I'm aware of. So when you're driving your car, you as a group are driving the same car, all at once. GM grabs some paper and some die-cast cars and something that can represent obstacles. This is obviously for an in-person game. Every time the raccoons enter a challenge, something that you'd like to see played out in detail, sketch out the road on the paper and put the cars and obstacles in place to show the player's current situation. Ask them to choose an action. Players choose an action by secretly setting a D6 to a number of their choice. No conferring with each other. You're not allowed to tell each other what you're picking. You're not allowed to talk about it. Then you reveal them all at once, and the actions are carried out from lowest to highest. So, this is a blind coding game, basically. Nobody knows what they're going to be doing until you're all revealing what your choices are. So, after everybody reveals what they're playing, you move the car based on what the roles were, what the choices were. You're the final arbiter. You can move the other cars around to react to what's going on. So the things you can do are brake, turn left, turn right, use an item, accelerate, or action, which is a miscellaneous action that you have. So you start your speed at 0. At the end of each round, you roll a d6 you roll a number of d6 equal to what the speed is. For each dice that shows a 1, the car takes 1 damage. For each die that shows a 4 or higher, you get a success. Spend successes as a group, with more successes achieving more difficult or impressive feats. You streak ahead of rivals, run chumps off the road if you've made contact with them, do cool tricks like jumps and skids, or find or create a better route through the streets of Los Angeles. Honestly, any city, you can make up a city, and then you don't have to worry about feeling committed to it. If the car makes contact with an obstacle or a wall, it takes damage if the GM feels it would be appropriate. If it is a glancing blow or a breakable object, the car takes damage equal to half of its speed. If it's a head-on crash or a solid object, the target takes damage equal to their speed, and speed is reduced to 0. If your car takes 10 damage, it stops and you can't start again until you fix it or find some other means of winning the race. So, this needs to be broken down a little bit more for how driving works, because this is a racing game, basically. I would need to do a little bit little bit of study on the order of things here. So your speed starts at 0. How do you determine the race? How do you actually adjudicate? Oh, just one more thing at the bottom here. It says GM advice. Never have an NPC question the whole raccoon thing. Play it completely straight. So yeah, you're just like, Stripes McGee, I see you're back in the game. Or something, like no one questions why they're raccoon. So that disguise yourself is not about hiding that you're a raccoon. It's about hiding what raccoon you are. Okay. So let's see. End of each round, GM rolls d6 equal to your speed, your car's speed. That's what it is. So your speed starts at 0, but one of the actions that you can do is accelerate the car. Oh, so it doesn't actually have anything to do with the race. That's an important part of this. This doesn't actually have anything to do with the race itself. Your speed, all that does is dictate how many dice the GM rolls at the end of the round, potentially give you some bonuses to do stuff at the end of the round. Okay, and then the GM is just reacting to whatever the players are doing and whatever their car does. Okay, that's not that bad, actually. If you completely remove the idea of there being a mechanic for the race, there isn't. It is just, do you survive? Do you speed up? Do you crash into something? If your car takes that 10 damage, you'll have to fix it. Which, I assume that's the use item option in here. That is what I assume. And someone having duct tape as one of their items could be a way to do that. That they could fix the car. Cool. Alright. Yeah. Not as super excited. I've seen Crash Pandas, and I'm not that into racing cars, so that's not a genre I'm particularly like jazzed about. But I do enjoy the raccoon in the middle of the page. He's very fun. Alright. Dead Channel, that's gonna be a horror game. Not as into that. Dinosaur Riders in Space. If you have any requests, I can save them for later. I'm just gonna kind of go through one more. We have time for one more, I think. Row World. Okay. Dungeon Scrawl, the Palace of the Briar. Find familiars. This is one that we may have played, or we talked about it. That was definitely one of the ones, and I'll think about going back to that one. Boat Crashers. Honey Heist is the big one that everybody knows. Honey Runner, which is apparently a cyberpunk version of Honey Heist, which I do love. Ill-Gotten Realms, Long Cons and Larceny in a Fantasy Land. Neat. Jason Statham's Big Vacation. Justified Anxiety. Kill Lot Thing. One Killer on the Campground. There's a lot of these sort of like Friday the 13th horror inspired ones. Kobold Endeavor. Labyrinth of Love. The dice game, that's neat. I promise I'll stop in a second. Here, let's do this one. Okay, so Noir, El Est El. This town is rotten. This town is rotten, and you've always known it. Hell, the whole town knows it deep down. No matter where you start pulling, you're bound to unravel some mess or another. Some of it goes higher than folks dare to follow. Some of it dark rabbit holes. And believe me, Alice ain't coming out of this alive. Hardigan's a good guy, a deadbeat, and a scumbag, but one of the good ones. There's not much in this town like you can say that about. Something's happened, though. The office has been turned, and he's nowhere to be seen. It ain't like usual when Hardigan's had one too many and smashed up the place. Serious. Hardigan must have gotten himself into something real bad this time. Whatever's been going on, it's up to the femme fatales to sort out this mess. So, you are a group of femme fatales trying to solve the disappearance of an alcoholic private investigator. Using any means necessary, navigate the twisting underworld of the city to find out what happened. Whenever you take a move, you roll a d10. On a 6 or higher, your move is a success. On a failure, things get harder, and whenever you fail, you gain a permanent -1 in that move type, which stacks to a maximum of -3. So, the moves. The moves you have when the pressure is on. Brutal cynicism when enacting physical or psychological harm. Pull the thread when investigating a scene. Snappy one-liner for when interviewing a suspect, or wiles when someone underestimates. If you succeed, the moves are action when the pressure is on. Action, brutal cynicism, pulling the thread, snappy one-liner, or wiles. If you succeed in an action, you act successfully under pressure. If you fail, you lose your cool, and if appropriate, you take a harm. If you succeed at brutal cynicism, you deal harm to an opponent. And if you fail at brutal cynicism, take a harm. If you succeed at pulling the thread, a small but important detail jumps out at you. If you fail to pull the thread, you find nothing. If you succeed at snappy one-liners, they let slip an important piece of information. And if you fail at snappy one-liner, they clam up. If you succeed at wiles, you take advantage of the situation. And if you fail at wiles, they ain't buying. Alright, so when you take harm, you mark a point. Points stack until you die. So, the stats or the harm levels are hurt, to injured, to broken, to dying, to dead. When you are harmed, when a femme fatale is broken, so halfway on your damage list here, instead of rolling 1d10, you roll 2d10 and you take the lowest result. So when you're acting, when you're trying to do a move. When a femme fatale is dying, you roll 2d10 and take the lowest, and then take a further -1 from the result on top of additional modifiers. You can heal back 1 harm by taking an aside for a gritty monologue. Yes! I love RP as a means of mechanic. And then last ditch. Once per game, if you are dying, you can use your last ditch to ignore the effects of your harm when rolling. Okay. So, choose your femme fatale. I have some options here. You can be a wild card, followed around by saxophone music, hell on high heels, made up to the nines, a vamp, or trouble the moment you walk in. You have a gun, a red dress, a string of lovers across town, friends in high places, no remorse, or your own way of getting around. You need a break, good stiff drink, a little respect, fame, fortune, or revenge. So you pick one from each of those lists to create your femme fatale. Then, just for the sake of reading this correctly, we're gonna make a copy, flip it upside down, because for GMs, there we go. So, for GMs, femme fatales. Whenever the femme fatales enter a scene, they must be offered cigarettes. This is very noir and tongue-in-cheek. So, whenever the femme fatales enter a scene, they must be offered a cigarette. Let the femme fatales use their descriptions to help them out in their investigation. If they have friends in high places, let them have a connection in City Hall, for instance. Try and put their needs into the story, too, to give them something to throw them off course or to reward them. You already have what we would call knives, which is very appropriate for a noir game. And I real. So. We are currently learning how to be femme fatale. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, it builds in the idea of taking their needs and their ways of doing things and use those in the story. Leads. Noir is all about the small details that lead to big revelations. Remember, you are on the side of the femme fatales. You want them to solve the mystery, so let them direct the investigation. If they want to follow an unplanned lead, let it take them somewhere, but don't be afraid to throw in a dead end here or there. So for inspiration, go to this table that's on. Adversaries. Adversaries have a threshold of 2 for any brutal cynicism. Adversaries also always take 2 harm to kill. When a femme fatale uses brutal cynicism to inflict physical wounds, consider 1 harm to be injured and 2 harm to be dead. So that means you also, I assume, have the same abilities. When a femme fatale uses brutal cynicism to inflict psychological wounds, consider 1 harm to the victim, or to put the victim in a more susceptible place for questioning, and 2 harm to cause them to clam up. That's important to know. Alright, if you need ideas for your plot, I have a table for you. So, you can roll a d10 and refer to the table. So here are some ideas. The who, the mob, the cops, the mayor, an old partner, Hardigan himself, a former rival, a known ally, an old flame, a dissatisfied client, or a business contact. Those are the reasons why Hardigan went missing. The leads you can use: a book of matches, a ticket stub, a face, a name, a ledger, a manila envelope, a photo, a letter, an item of clothing, or a lock of hair. And dead ends: a woman in red, a man in black, a jazz club, the 11:15 train, a dog barking, a green sedan, a man in an overcoat, a dry cleaning receipt. Sorry, a dry cleaning receipt. The receipt's not dry, cleaning is dry. A downtown restaurant, or a woman in a green hat. Okay. So, back to the premise of this. Noir LS El Sont. Actually, I'm curious what that stands for. Or it's French. Maybe it's like women come, women go. Something like that. Translate. LS Sont. Call it, I assume. They are. Okay, so it's like the feminine. It starts at a pronoun. It's fine. I'm just being nitpicky. So, one of the things that I like about this game is if you're into, if you are into doing noir games, or you want to do something that's a little silly noir, you could definitely lean into it on this. I absolutely love healing harm by doing a gritty monologue. I just want all my players to always do gritty monologues. I think that's beautiful. So yeah, I think this one would be really cool. It doesn't hold your hand as much when it comes to building the mystery, because there is actually a mystery component to this game. You would have to figure it out. But I do love the turnaround of, like, you all know Hardigan, you're all the femme fatales in his life, and you all have to get together and be like, ugh. You go there for a drink, or for a break, or for a fortune or for revenge. Like, you're going to Hardigan's, and you all have your own reasons to want to find this detective guy. And I could definitely see that being kind of a fun way to do that. It feels a little like Hangover-esque, where you kind of like bury the lead of who the main character is, and then everybody's trying to find them. So you could play off the Hangover as one of the ideas, or just play with regular noir tropes and have all the women in his life be the characters. So one of the things that I really love is in the Fiasco game, RPG, you get a lot of, in all the playbooks, all the different types of games that you can play, there are film and television touchstones that you can go watch if you want to get into the mood or get an idea for the genre that you're playing in. Understanding the tropes and kind of playing off them to create a kind of parody or a version of that sort of world. This definitely feels like it would be good to watch things like Double Indemnity or hell, Who Framed Roger Rabbit would be a fair one to go look at, which is already a send up of the genre. But yeah, if you wanted to find things like that, femme fatales in and of themselves, if that's character type you're familiar with, just kind of play with that. This one would be really fun. I would really enjoy this one. Probably on my short play a little bit. But yeah, so alright, so we are, I don't think I have either, I have neither the breath nor the time to go over another one of these games. But what I will do is I will reiterate what we ran through today. So we did Grant Howitt games. We did Crash Pandas. Adventure Skeletons was the first one we did. Then we... Who's in there? Adventure Skeletons, Beautiful Space Pirates, which was by Chris Taylor. No, I think these are all Grant Howitt games. So Adventure Skeletons, Beautiful Space Pirates, and Crash Pandas, and then Noir El Est El. Alright, so those were the games we went through. If you have any interest, I'll share them. I'll try to share them on Twitter. These were the games that we went over, and I'm definitely going to be looking into playing or running these during in our Discord server. So if you have not been to our Discord server yet, you absolutely should. You can find a link to it in underneath the stream. Double check, make sure something fell. It's fine. Yes, you can join our Discord server under the Nerdsmith tag below this video. You can find the header that says. So yeah, please take a look at those. Next week, fingers crossed, I think I will be going over one specific game. I just heard back from the other, so I'm going to be hopefully setting that up so it'll be a little bit more of a focused session. Yeah, so this is a preview of kind of what I wanted to do, which is just kind of delve into some other game systems. Want to stretch out my legs a little bit. I'm only playing D&D right now. I do have a couple of D&D games that I want to play today. Want to run them someday, but just given kind of the temperature that's going on around now in the TTRPG space, I'm gonna try to play some other stuff and support independent creators. Very, very important. And I will be doing a lot more of signal boosting independent creators, especially Black creators lately. Yeah, so please watch this space. So that is all we have today for the Power Hour. Just a quick overview. We're part of the Nerdsmith network. We are a group of entertainers and creators who make a lot of role-playing games, but we also make podcasts and live streams for those role-playing game activities. You can find a bunch of our stuff at nerdsmith.org. If you liked what you saw today and you would like to support our network, you can do so on Patreon. We have a Patreon account, we have patreon.com/nerdsmith, where we put out bonus content for our shows that we have. Today is Wednesday, which means tomorrow on Thursday we have No Brainer, which is our bar trivia show hosted by Matthew Siebert. That should be, I believe, at 6 p.m. But please take a look. Follow us here on Twitch or on Twitter at We Are Nerdsmith, and you'll get pinged when we go live. But if you're interested in playing trivia, please join us on the Discord server and let us know. We are always looking for people with microphones and cameras and an interest in trivia to come join our game. It is 3 teams of 2 playing bar trivia. So basically, are you interested in random esoteric questions? And the audience can donate to muck up the questions, or give extra questions, or just kind of fiddle with the game while we play it. It's very fun. Matthew is a delightful host, and you should definitely check it out. And then on Friday, I am emceeing our weekly karaoke stream. Nerdsmith Sings Our Heart Out. We are playing on Twitch Sings with a bunch of my friends here at the Nerdsmith in the Nerdsmith creator community. I'm a big fan of singing, and they have a ton of fun. And we take donations for song requests. We have playlists. And more importantly, we will be donating any Streamlabs tips that we get during that show. We will be giving it to a Black Lives Matter based charity or fund. We're still figuring out which one we're going to be donating to specifically, but we will let you know as soon as. So that's all I've got. Please, everyone, have a wonderful and safe Wednesday. Hope to see you here next week. Same time, same place. Wednesdays at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. Not running late. And yeah, that's what I've got. Thank you so much for joining me for the Power Hour. I am Angela. You can find me pretty much everywhere at darling_gypsum, especially on Twitter. And I hope you have safe time. And please do me a favor, be good to me.